Making money as a multi-passionate person is not always easy, and it's not because of lack of opportunity, lack of skill, anything like that. Usually it's one of two things. One, you're all over the place. You want to do everything, you're interested in everything, and so you're spreading yourself really thin, trying to do all of it at once. Or you've tried to niche down and do what everyone says and focus on one thing at a time. But as a multi-passionate person, you probably struggle with that. You might even get burnt out and drop that focus entirely. This is something that I've dealt with for most of my career. I have a lot of interests, I have a lot of skills, and I like to be doing a lot of different things all the time. But my struggle was finding a way to make it make sense financially. How can I leverage all of my skills and all of my interests and use those to make a really good living? The things that I was making money off of weren't really aligning with my passions and my values, and the things that actually align with my passions and my values weren't making me any money. So I did an activity, and I would call it a self-discovery process, to lay out all of my skills, the people that I like to work with, the things that really fulfill me, and start to pair them together to identify the areas of opportunity, and specifically the opportunities that intersect fulfillment and potential financial impact. So I'm going to walk you through how to do the activity on your own to identify those opportunities and then the steps to take from there. What you're going to need for this is a pen or a Sharpie, maybe some highlighters if you'd like to color code like I do, and then index cards. If you don't have index cards, cut up pieces of paper, but I really like using index cards. I do not recommend doing this on your iPad or on your computer, on your phone. It makes it so much easier whenever you're able to see and feel and move around all of these different items. We're going to start by walking through our categories. The first is potentially the most important. These are the things that fulfill you. This is where you might say, this is what I'm here to do. And for me, that is mentorship, leadership, and teaching. Those three things fulfill me. They come naturally to me, and I feel like if I had to get to the root of what I do and what I enjoy doing and what I'm meant to do, it is these three areas. You don't want to have a lot of cards here. If you have a lot, there's likely some overlap, and you need to get to the root of each of those areas. For example, if you say writing and painting, then it's creating. Similarly, if you say photography, videography, it's creating. So ask yourself why, ask yourself what, until you're able to get to ground zero. The next category is your audience. Who do you work with? Who do you want to work with? Who have you worked with? And get rid of any audience that you don't want to carry into the future. So for me, I have content creators, corporations, e-com, small businesses, and a couple others, actually a few others. I have quite a few here. You might not have as many, and that is totally okay. That actually might make things a little bit easier. But I have a lot because my work has covered a lot of different areas, and the skills that I have can service many different industries and types of people. Now, the next two categories here are pretty similar, so I encourage you to approach them however that makes sense to you. These pink cards are kind of higher level categories of the things that I can do for these audiences. So things like audits, growth systems, testing systems, business strategy. So it's not getting super specific about any of them. Again, they're larger buckets. But these orange cards are the specifics. So these to me are more of the hard skills of what I'm able to provide. And a lot of these you'll notice are actually tied to specific deliverables or outputs. So we have data and reports, we have paid media, we have design, we have branding. And the reason why I didn't just do the orange cards is because I did those first and they didn't feel like enough. These are things that I do. They're things that I know how to do, but I can also do more. Like, yes, I can do paid media, but more specifically, I can offer growth systems. I understand more than just the specific skill set, the specific area. I'm much more expansive than that. So let yourself be expansive. This is where that multi-passionate quality comes in, because I know that you are more than just your hard skills. I know that you have greater understanding of different areas and the intersection of those areas. So these pink cards are asking yourself, how are you uniquely suited to solve specific problems? And usually you're uniquely suited because you are multi-passionate. Now the final category is kind of like a subcategory, but these are channels. So it is simply YouTube, Twitter, networking, social ads, LinkedIn, things like that. Because what we're going to do is we're going to create combinations. And then after we create those combinations, we have to consider the channels that we're working within. How are you getting the business that you need? Whether that's getting clients, making sales, anything like that. So now is the time to make those combinations. And this is where it gets really fun, right? Let yourself play, let yourself discover, and consider things that you hadn't thought of before. That is the real opportunity here, is finding those combinations that you hadn't considered and that are highly valuable. So for me, an example is I mentor aspiring agency owners. What do I mentor them on? Usually business strategy, usually growth systems. So this can be a combination on itself. If I want to pull in these other areas, I can. But personally, I'm trying to get out of just strictly an execution role and into more of these pink cards where it's more expansive and I can really do the things that I am uniquely suited to do. That doesn't mean that these won't come into play. It's just that for this specific combination, I don't really need them. Now on that note, I also have combinations that might not pull in these top cards. Ideally they do, right? Because these are the things that really fulfill me. But there are other opportunities that can be identified that aren't reliant on those. So for example, I want to do data and reports for content creators, and that can also include audits. So this combination doesn't even need the top ones, but it's a combination that until I did this exercise myself, I hadn't really considered, right? Because once I laid out all of my audiences, I realized that there are things that I'm not offering them and things that could be incredibly lucrative. So when I went through this, I actually had my girlfriend sitting next to me, and she wrote down the combinations that I was putting together. And so we have this sheet, and you can see the audience is highlighted on each area. And what we did after we laid them out, after we went through all the combinations, had some fun, is we started talking about how valid each idea is. So, for example, teaching small businesses, paid media, web, data, and reports. And then our channel is social ads and YouTube. So after some thought, after some discussion, we determined that this specific combination is worth testing, but we shouldn't dedicate a lot of time to it. And we also noticed that the value is in digital products and less in services. Because what you'll start to notice is some of your audiences have more financial resources than others. And typically what happens is there are fewer of the ones that have more money and a lot more of the ones that have less money. And this is where you have to find your fit, right? Because you don't want to start to try to sell high dollar services, high dollar products to an audience that can't afford it. Instead, you should think of like, what can I sell over and over and over? What can I offer that is very low lift for me, but is also something that that audience legitimately needs or wants? So let's look at another combination that we discussed. Content creators and their management teams. So we said audits and testing systems, data and reports, and then our channels are YouTube, LinkedIn, networking, and potentially Twitter. We noted that it could be very beneficial. There are opportunities that we actively have for outreach. So that's something too, like, is it low-hanging fruit for you right now? Is it easier than other things to start earning business? In considering that time to launch, like how long will it take you to be ready to start? Another thing we noted here is this is an area where there's a problem that we can solve. So while we were doing the exploration, we realized that this wasn't really something that's being done often. And it is something that we've done, but not at scale. We haven't offered it a lot. So there's clear opportunity there. There's a need for it, and it is enjoyable and fulfilling to us. And you might have noticed that these little tags are the ones that we identified as things that I should pursue. So the last one that we'll talk about is mentorship and teaching for founders and aspiring agency owners. So we combined two audiences because they had a lot of overlap, paired them with a couple of the higher level offerings, and then we broke it down into the more specifics. And here, this actually covered a lot of different orange cards and pink cards. So there's a lot that can be done with it. And this is one of those where this audience is much larger, but they're not going to have the resources to pay for a high dollar service or product. So through all of this, your goal is to find the highest value opportunities that leverage your unique skills and your unique interests. You're trying to find an overlap between that potential financial impact and fulfillment for yourself as a multi-passionate person. And now after you do this, after you have your long list, do what I did and identify maybe 2 or 3 that you really want to pursue in the next month, 2 month, 3 months, so that you can start to validate that actual idea. So after you have this sheet of paper, you need to dig into the real plan. You know the audience, you know what you're offering them, you even know the channels that you need to function on. So that's when content plans come into play. That's when you need to consider the actual product and placement and price, and allow yourself to discover along the way. You might have something written out here that changes and evolves as you dig further into it, and that is totally okay. The point is, as a multi-passionate person, you should never try to shrink yourself. Let yourself be as expansive as you can be, because in today's world, that makes you a high-value individual, especially if you can find your fit.